All right, this is page 83. And on this page is a mix of some multiplication with fractions, some addition with fractions. Some of the challenge that kids have on this page is not sure which is which. So I'm going to do my best to explain that to you, and I'll do my best to show all my work, okay? So we are on number 18. It says solve, write each answer in simplest form. So number 18 reads, Aaron buys a bag of peanuts that weighs 3/4 of a pound. Later that week, the bag is 2/3 full. How much does the bag of peanuts weigh now? Show your work. So since you have to show your work on this line, I'm going to zoom in so I can write on it. I should have enough room now to fit all my work. You need to answer the question. You also need to show your work. So let me model for you what I would do. Originally, the bag of peanuts weighed 3/4 of a pound, but then she ate some, and so it doesn't weigh as much. So we don't need to find the weight at the beginning. We need to find the weight at the end. So this is the same thing as finding 2/3 of 3/4. The original weight was 3/4, but she ate some of it, and now the bag only weighs 2/3 of that. So we need to find 2/3 of 3/4, which is the same thing as 2/3 times 3/4. So it's a little tricky, but we can recognize that this is multiplication. Now we need to decide which method we want to take. Do we want to simplify diagonally right now, or do we want to simplify at the end? Since these numbers are pretty basic and simple, we could just simplify at the end. Multiply our numerator. 2 times 3 is 6, and 3 times 4 is 12. And then the greatest common factor of 6 and 12 is 6, so we divide by the GCF. And 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 12 divided by 6 is 2. The answer is 1/2. And then we go back and reread what's our unit. It says Aaron buys a bag of peanuts that weighs 3/4 of a pound, so our unit is pounds, so our answer is 1/2 of a pound. And then finish reading, make sure we got it. Later that week, the bag is 2/3 full. How much does the bag of peanuts weigh now? Show your work. We showed our work, and we answered the question. We're done with 18. Good job. Let's move on to number 19. Number 19, we're going to do A, but we're going to skip B. We're going to skip a couple of problems on this page, just because they are the ones we're going to do are challenging enough. Some of the other ones are overly complicated, so we're not going to do all of them. All right, number 19. I'm going to use a whiteboard for this one because I just don't feel like there's quite enough space. Number 19 reads, Marianne buys 16 bags of potting soil that comes in 5/8 pound bags. How many pounds of potting soil does Marianne buy? I want you to picture this. You go to Lowe's and you're buying a bunch of potting soil, and you buy them, and then you go out to the truck and you're throwing the bags in the back of the truck. It says that she bought a bunch of bags, and they each weigh 5/8 of a pound. Well, how much does the first bag weigh? It weighs 5/8 of a pound. If we need to figure out the weight of 2 bags, it would be 5/8 of a pound times 2. If we need to do the weight of 3 bags, it would be 5/8 times 3. Well, hopefully you recognize that this is multiplication. It's going to be 5/8 times 16. So if you write this, you might get confused. You might say, well, what do I do? Remember that in order to multiply a numerator by a numerator, you need this to have a numerator. And so that's a reminder that when you multiply by a whole number, you immediately change it into a fraction over 1. So, and if you don't like how this is offset, you just rewrite it as 5/8 times 16 over 1. That's what you do when you multiply by a whole number. Now, if we do like on the last problem, we multiply our numerators, we end up with a big number. So what I like to do is simplify now. It's much easier. 8 and 16 diagonally share a factor of 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1, and 16 divided by 8 is 2. And now look at how simple these numbers are. 5 times 2 is 10, over 1 times 1 is 1. And when we have a 1 as a denominator, we don't need it. The answer is 10. And again, just like last time, go back and what was the unit? It was pounds. How many pounds of potting soil does Marianne buy? She buys 10 pounds. All right, like I said, we're skipping 19b, so we're on to 20. And again, we're just going to do a couple other problems. We're going to do 20a and b, and we're going to skip c. So I'll just scroll down here. I want you to see me write on here that we're skipping c. So you can do that as well. But we are going to do a and b, so I need to then move my page back up so you can see that. So 20a and b. Maybe I'll put skip right here so you know that we are skipping this one. You're welcome to try it, by the way. It's just, in my opinion, overly complicated. All right, so this one is a bit of work. It's not really too hard. You just may not know what to do. So I'm going to get a big whiteboard here to show my work. All right, question 20 reads, 2/5 of the instruments in the marching band are brass. 1/3 are percussion and the rest are woodwinds. I'm going to keep notes there. So over here I'm going to do the brass. BR for brass. And it says 2/5 of the instruments in the marching band are brass. So I'm going to put 2/5 here. It says 1/3 are percussion. So I'm going to put PER for percussion. That's 1/3. And the rest are woodwind. We don't know what that is. I could put a fraction bar, but I don't know. I don't even know what to put for my denominator for woodwinds. And that's actually your first hint. Since these denominators are different, we need to do something to have them be the same common denominator. And that skill requires that you are good at LCM. The LCM of 5 and 3 is 15. So we want to rewrite these as equivalent fractions with a denominator of 15. Okay. How do I get from 5 to 15? I multiply by 3. How do I get from 3 to 15? I multiply by 5. And I just chose 15 for woodwinds because I want them to all have the same denominator. So go back to your brass. You have to multiply the numerator by the same thing you multiplied the denominator. So 6/15 of the instruments are brass. 5/15 of the instruments are percussion. And we don't know the woodwinds. And that was question A. What fraction of the band is woodwinds? Well, the reason that why you want common denominators is I need to figure out the whole thing, and the whole thing's going to be one whole. So I need this all to add up to 15/15. So if I add this up, I can figure out my missing numerator here. 6/15 plus 5/15, that's 11/15, plus unknown has to make 15/15. 6 plus 5 is 11, plus 4, that's my missing number, has to get up to 15/15, which is the whole band, one whole band. So go back to your question. What fraction of the band is woodwinds? It's 4/15. All right, question B. We're going to do this one, and then we're going to skip C. I need to erase a little bit just to make up some room here. And question B says 1/2 of the woodwinds are clarinets. Here's my woodwinds right here. 1/2 are clarinets. I need to find 1/2 of, that means times, 4/15. And you could use common sense on this, or you can just use multiplication. It's really pretty simple numbers. I could do 1 times 4 and 2 times 15, or I could simplify my 4 and my 2 right now. 2 goes into itself once, and 2 goes into 4 twice. And I've got 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 15 is 15. The answer is 2/15. Now, a minute ago I said you could use common sense. Half of 4/15 is 2/15. Half of 4 is 2. That's what I meant by you could use common sense. Okay, we're done with question 20. We're going to go ahead to the next column over and do all of number 21. That's actually not too hard. It's kind of a long problem, but it's not too hard. So hopefully you'll feel successful on that one. Let's go ahead and move the page over. And I'll put my whiteboard over here. I may need to make it a little smaller. It says, and I don't know how to say this name, maybe Marshall? Marshall found a recipe for fruit salad that he wanted to try to make for his birthday party. He decided to triple the recipe. That's the first math clue right there, triple. We're going to take all these things and triple them. That's times 3. So triple the recipe. Pay attention to that. A says, what are the new amounts for the oranges, apples, blueberries, and peaches? Let me go ahead and take a picture of this and then bring it down with me. Oops, I don't know where that went. I'll try it again. Now I'm going to move my page up so I can see my questions. That was the whole point of this picture right there. It says, what are the new amounts for the apples, or oranges, apples, blueberries, and peaches? So we don't have to triple everything. So we just got to go find all these things. The oranges, where are the oranges? They're right here. 1/2 times 3. We're going to triple 1/2. So I need to do 1/2 times 3. That's the same as 3 over 1. And you could, again, you could use common sense on this, but if you do 3 times 1, you get 3. 2 times 1 is 2. 3 over 2, that's the same thing as 2 goes into 3 once, with 1 left over, it's 1.5. And we should label that OR for oranges. The oranges are 1.5. I need to triple the, I'll put a check mark for done. We need to triple the apples, go find the apples. Need to do triple the apples, so I need to do 3/5 times 3 over 1. Same thing, tripling means to multiply by 3 over 1. So I've got 3 times 3 is 9. And 5 times 1 is 5. 9 divided by 5 is 1 whole with 4 left over. So it's 1 4/5. And that's going to be AP for apples. All right, we've got to triple the blueberries. Where are the blueberries? At the bottom. So I'm going to multiply 1/4 by 3. and that's mental math. 1/4 times 3 is 3/4 because 1 times 3 is 3, and 4 times 1 is 4. 3/4. 3/4 of a cup. I don't really have room to label it, so we're just going to put 3/4, and that's for the blueberries. And I need to triple the peaches, and the peaches are 2/3. So I'm going to do 2/3 times 3/1, and this would be a good one to simplify. If I simplify my 3's, 3 goes into itself once, and 3 goes into itself once. I end up with 2 times 1 over 1 times 1. 2 over 1 is the same as 2 whole, so it's going to be 2 peaches. Here's my answers right here. Not too hard. That helped us practice tripling. Multiply by 3. All right, question B at the bottom. The amount of rhubarb in the original recipe is 3½ cups. Using what you know of whole numbers and what you know of fractions, explain how you could triple that mixed number. So it's asking you to triple 3½, which is 3½ times 3. Now there's different ways to explain this. I mean, one way would be to add up 3½ 3 times. That'd be fine. Another way would be to go through the steps of changing 3½ into a mixed number. So I'm not going to tell you how to do this. What I'm going to do is review with you the way to multiply a mixed number by a whole number. So that's what I'm going to do. But if that's not the way you would solve it, then that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and make a little whiteboard here. 3½, that's the amount of rhubarb, times 3. I need a numerator over a denominator times a numerator over a denominator, and I don't have any of that stuff. Now this one's easy to fix. 3 is the same as 3/1, so now I at least have a numerator and denominator. This one I need to do 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, I get 7/2. I can't simplify anything. 3 and 2 doesn't simplify, and 1 and 7 doesn't simplify, so I simply multiply 7 times 3, that's 21, and 2 times 1 is 2. And then I convert that back. This is called an improper fraction. I convert it back to a mixed number by dividing 21 by 2 and get 10. And then 1 left over, so it's 10½. The answer is 10½. I can't remember. It must be cups. The answer is 10½ cups. Now you may solve it differently. You might triple by, like I said, adding up 3½ 3 times. That's fine. I don't care in which way you choose to do this, but I do want you to understand the way I showed you. Okay, good job. We're done with page 83.